back to Lad's Garage. We are back in the shop. I'm getting ready to pull out my busted transmission out of the car. We're going to take a closer look, see what's going on with it. I'm actually going to put an auction transmission in I know nothing about, because I got a really good deal on that transmission. We've already busted up I don't know how many transmissions this year. Well, be honest with you, I had one that was damaged from last year on a loading and unloading accident. I swapped it out. We had issues where we got in an accident. We knocked the rear end loose, which eventually led to issues of when we put it together, things failed, and we damaged the tail shaft on the transmission that was in the car. I took two transmissions, put them together, and now I got a busted housing on the Frankenstein setup, and now I'm going to rely on a transmission I bought from an auction that I really don't know nothing about other than possibility that first gear synchronizer is out in it. Before I get too deep into doing what we're doing here, I want to address some questions that pop up on the comment section of this channel. First one being the Pinto. Some of you came to this channel because I was racing a 4-cylinder Pinto in what at the time at Farmington Empire Speedway we were calling the Super Street class. There are people that went and seen the races in person. Some of you have watched the races through the YouTube channel. The Pinto drew a lot of attention. You know, when you say I'm running a 4-cylinder Pinto with V8 cars, and people are like, whoa. Either way, the Pinto went through a makeover the year I raced it. Right at the end of the season, it went through a makeover. The roof is back down to actual factory height. It's not extended up. So the Pinto went through a makeover, and it was set up to race with the vintage cars at a 2-night show at Farmington Empire Speedway that the Gateway Vintage Car Association puts on. During that show, I was actually at Doe Run Raceway running the Thunder Chicken car that Jason Burrington also owns. I raced that out at Doe Run that night. Jason was at Farmington Empire Speedway running the Gateway Vintage Car class with the Pinto. Engine let go in the Pinto. So the Pinto is actually is owned by Jason Burrington, along with the Stroker Ace car that I raced at. Well, the Stroker Ace car will be coming back under different ownership, but at the time, both cars that I ran that year were owned by Jason Burrington, both of the 4-cylinders. The Pinto is safely tucked away at Burrington's house, waiting on an engine. Currently, we don't have a 4-cylinder class in the area outside of running up to Peevely, which car's not legal for that track anyway. Second thing I want to address, a lot of people have asked me, why do I run a leaf spring Camaro versus a metric Monte Carlo? Once again, scroll back into some of my older videos, or you can go to the playlist of, I can't remember the exact name of it, but Intimidator Prep or something like that. I had a metric car, and me and that car absolutely fought. The car is still viewed on this channel under the guidance of the Counts boys running it. Kylan race, actually, it's Kylan's car now. Kylan races it. He's been doing fairly well with it. If you watched the last video, see me helping with changing the tire on it, that was Intimidator. I did some trading, got this car. I'm much more happier with this car, even though this season has been very aggravating for me. I'm much happier with this car. I like this car a lot better. Would I jump into a metric car? If somebody had one sitting around, they needed a driver, I'm your guy. I've had people suggest me reach out and try to get sponsors to kind of help bring my budget up a little bit, maybe buy, upgrade from the 305 to at least the 350. But I don't run sponsors to help fund my racing program, even though I have a few small ones, but I don't run sponsors because, one, I'm gone Monday through Friday. I drive a truck. You can follow that journey over on Lad's Trucking Diaries. I'm heavily involved in scouting. I'm an assistant scoutmaster, and pretty much I'm one of the leaders that I show up to just about every camp out and all that. So I don't want to be fully wrapped into running for points and having sponsors that are expecting me to be at the track every week. And like I said, I'm a one-man show 90% of the time. Jason Burrington helps me out a lot whenever, I have major mess ups, but outside of that, I do a lot of my own stuff. And so when I'm gone Monday through Friday and something's broke on the car, sometimes it's a tight squeeze for me to get things fixed. So, and I don't want to let sponsors down. Not saying I wouldn't run sponsors. I did it in 2020 and made it work, but the scenario was a little different back then. Hope that kind of answers some questions. I'm going to get to pulling this transmission out. I will let you guys see it whenever I get it out and try to get the other transmission in, and we'll dissect this one. Well, we got a gear inspection hole on the top, bottom, bottom and top. Then over here on the top of this side. I'm thinking something to do with these guys being broke off led to that thing breaking in half. I thought I might be able to weld this one up, but I don't know about that. I was having issues with this one popping out of gear. I think when it popped out of gear the last time, I'm just speculating here, I'm gonna say it probably broke the ears on the transmission. And then being that you only had one ear holding the whole thing together, I'm gonna speculate that broke the yoke on the back half, allowed it to bind up. Now I'm just speculating here. I mean, we had one good ear on the transmission left. I don't know really, but that housing is done for sure. Yeah, we got 3 amigos here. Actually, we got a 4th one right there. I plan to use the auction transmission, and I'll show you why. This is the throwout bearing that I use. I run a triple disc clutch. It slides on the input shaft just like so, and bolts go on here and here to hold it into place. Well, from bolt to bolt on this transmission, it is, say, 3 inches. Bolt to bolt on this transmission, let's say, is 2 3/4. To me, it's not worth paying somebody to basically machine, they're going to have to weld up the original holes, because it's going to be just enough to where new holes are probably going to intersect with the old holes and all that fun stuff. It just wouldn't work out good. So my last resort is the last resort for a reason. I have had this transmission sitting in the floor. It has been, last time this transmission was used was probably 10 years ago. And the reason being is the 3rd gear synchronizer went out. Basically giving me the same issues that I was having with this guy, but this guy didn't explode itself. Now, I got 3 gear clusters that will work with these transmissions. One in this one in this one, and one that originally came out of this one. I guess what I'm gonna have to do, unless I want to buy another transmission and get this guy out on the track, I guess I'm gonna have to try a 3rd time. I got my bucket set up right there. I'm not gonna claim to even know what I'm doing here. I probably shouldn't even be inside a transmission. I've said it before, Grandpa never let me say I can't do something. So, that being the case, I was having issues when I moved this slider back and forth, this is 3rd and 2nd gear. Here's 3rd, here's 2nd. I've learned this through using AI and Google and all that fun stuff. This would be, I'm assuming 1st gear, and this is reverse. Either way, I'm learning all this stuff here. But either way, for those of you who've never been inside of a manual transmission, these little rings here and these little teethers, these are the brass ones are your synchronizers. And these little guys here, they lock it in. You slide this back and forth, and it basically acts like a clutch brake, similar to what a semi-truck would have on it, without having to have a clutch brake on it, similar to what a semi-truck would have. And it just allows you to slide it back and forth, go into gear while the transmission's spinning. What I learned, I was having issues when I put this transmission together, this guy here, and the old transmission, when I put it together, I had the same issue where this was locked up. You'd try turning it, and it basically just acted like it was in third gear all the time. Then when you slide it back here to second gear, it would just do that. I'm playing right now. I mean, I can fully rotate it, but right now I'm just acting like it don't move. But that's basically what was the action I was getting. You try to move it and it just stayed locked. What I learned, if you ever decide to do this brass sleeve right here, if you put it on here, you need to have a little bit of lubrication on it, or else this guy here is going to stay locked in and not allow you to run second gear. It's just going to stay locked into place. We grind them till we find them. But either way, I just thought I would show you guys that. As you can see, what would happen if we put this thing in 2 gears at once. This is basically the effect that we was getting right here. We're in third and reverse. This thing is locked up tighter than the Epstein files. Either way, we both learned something new today. If you didn't notice already, I mean, I'm not a transmission expert. I'm learning this. If you need me to rebuild your Saginaw 3-speed, I'll cut you one heck of a deal, because it may or may not work. Either way, they're really simple. They're really simple. Intimidating, but simple. But when you're poor, intimidating can't play a factor in what we're doing here. Well, my next step is, since we got the side cover off of the transmission, we're going to go ahead and, I've already added some oil into it. We're going to go ahead and oil her on up pretty good here, and get a good amount of oil in there, so when we put it together, we're not having to fight with filling it up. I'm gonna put the side cover on it and let the silicone dry, because I don't use gaskets, I just use silicone. As you can see, this whole thing spinnies. That's what we wanting. And with learning everything that I have learned today, I realized that I did something wrong on the other transmission. As you can see, I have 2 extra synchronizer brass rings, whatever you want to call them, right here. Well, what I screwed up on this transmission is I had this hub off. It's on the right way, but I had the same issue as I did with this one, where it was locked into third. So I took it all apart, and my solution was taking the brass ring off of this side that should be sitting in there like this. Just pretend it's in there right. And there should be one sitting on this side. But this one was locked onto the third gear hub. Here's third gear. I'll just stick that on there. So here's a good visual representation. This is how I had it, basically. Had the brass ring, but I did not have a synchronizer on second. Should have had a synchronizer on second, but I took it off because this brass ring was stuck on here, like so, and it wasn't allowing, it wasn't spinning on the shaft freely, causing issues. So, this transmission was a mistake on my part. Actually, I don't see any major internal damage, so I'm going to try to figure out a way to weatherproof the internals on this one, which probably won't hurt because these set exposed. But either way, I'm going to put these off to the side. Then I got a good tail shaft and gear cluster for another issue down the road. I'm sure it's bound to happen eventually. Something I did with the last transmission is I put silicone around the speed sensor, because they like to leak around there, because the O-ring goes bad and then you got to buy a specialized O-ring. This tail shaft, if you look down in there, kind of right in there, you can kind of see there are gears still in there for the speed sensor. So what I did was I ground the gears off of this one, put some silicone on the shaft and twisted it in there and glued it into place. Now I put some silicone around there, so when we slide it in the hole, the O-ring that is on there from the factory that is wore out doesn't leak around there, and hopefully this transmission will have 0 leaks when it's all said and done with. These selector dilly whoppers run through the case here. They actually have O-rings on them, so I went from running, I don't know where, that case there that those selector dilly whoppers didn't have O-rings on them and leaked like crazy. These guys got O-rings, so hopefully they don't leak. If I remember right, this transmission really didn't leak other than out the speed sensor. If I remember right, it didn't leak much at all, if any. But like I said, if I remember right, it only leaked out the speed sensor whenever we had it together. So it's got a seal inside this case. I got O-rings here. And it had a pretty good seal on the tail shaft. That's not a big deal. We can change that out pretty quick. I siliconed the crap out of it. None of my other transmissions had leaked with doing that, so we're gonna let it cure for the night, and we'll put it back up and band it tomorrow. The real test of this transmission is gonna be at the track. Is it gonna work? Is it not gonna work? Is it gonna come apart? Is it gonna be done for the season? I don't know. I'll probably end up try to hunt down a new U-joint to replace the one that came out of the broken tail shaft, or the slip yoke, I should say. We'll try to find a new U-joint. Might just go ahead and replace both of them, and we'll try it again. This one breaks, I might just hang it up for the year. But y'all stay safe. God bless you. We'll catch you later.